All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I will now call to order council's regular meeting, November 15th, 2021. It's our last meeting before Thanksgiving and our most recent one after Veterans Day, so I'd ask you to join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. We're just thankful for all the blessings you bestowed upon us. Father, we're especially grateful for our veterans, all who served to keep us safe, to protect and promote our way of life. Father, we also appreciate our many blessings as we approach the holidays and gather with family and friends. Help to keep us safe. And help us tonight, Father, to make decisions and hold discussions that will be pleasing in your sight. And we ask for these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
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 We now invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, thank everybody for coming tonight. Tonight is noteworthy on a few occasions. I want to introduce to my left is Councilwoman, Ward D Councilwoman, Carolyn Williams' first regular meeting as a councilwoman, so I want you to welcome. We had a special meeting last Wednesday that went smoothly, and tonight is also, sadly, it's the last regular meeting. We may have another special or two before December 1st, but Christine Hasbrook, and we want to thank Christine in Ward B. And December 1st, she'll be leaving council. But let's give her a warm thank you. Perhaps more on Christine later. We have two public hearings advertised tonight, ladies and gentlemen. They both deal with the same issue. These are required public hearings, and basically, to make a long story short, we have heard a number of concerns and complaints from residents on 6th Street between Lunenburg Avenue and Academy in particular, or is it all the way to South Main?
It goes all the way to Main.
On the north side, which is the side across from Heritage Hall, we have a number of elderly folks and some that are actually disabled. But when they return home, or they cannot park near their home. And so we've got an ordinance that's modeled somewhat after the town of Farmville to restrict parking on the north side of 6th Street to residents only. And that is in your packet. It's been advertised, and the first public hearing is on the ordinance, and that is in your packet. But basically it states that the ordinance is to require, to prevent non-resident on-street parking on 6th Street between Main Street and Lunenburg Avenue. This would apply only to the north side of 6th Street.
I think the first ordinance is more of an enabling.
Yes.
First public hearing, stating that you do have the authority to do so. And then the second is more of a policy, stating that the north side. So I think the first public hearing is more, does council want the authority to restrict parking?
And if I can just
Yes.
explain a little bit more about it. In the state code, it gives town council the authority to regulate certain parking, things like that, only if town council chooses to adopt this general ordinance. And so the first is a general ordinance, and what it does is it just states town council has the general authority to do that. And then the kind of second layer of this is town council would then have to adopt a regulation separately, stating, what it is choosing to enforce. So in this case, the regulation is the parking, the specific parking issue that's before you all.
I skipped to public hearing number 2, and you're right. Public hearing number 1 is the actual ordinance that would enable council, if it so chose, to prohibit non-resident on-street parking. At this time, I'll declare we are in public hearing, and I like to do things somewhat more efficiently. Is anyone here tonight that's against the ordinance, against the proposal to allow only residents to park on that side of 6th Street? Is anyone against it? And I don't mind telling y'all, we are blessed to have the largest private employer in Blackstone is Heritage Hall. It's also home to 165 residents, 180 employees, and we are good friends and neighbors with Heritage Hall. They're a great civic and corporate neighbor. But just because they've been so busy, even during COVID, when they've had times when visitation has not been allowed, the demand for parking over there is great. And when residents who live there who are getting along in years or perhaps disabled have to walk a half a block or a block to get to their front of their house and go in their house, those are things that happen, and that's resulted in this action. Who is, and no one against, does anyone here speak for the enabling ordinance? I believe I see Mr. Chris Page without my glasses.
Yeah, I actually just have two questions. I'm definitely for it. I've lived there, this is going on my third year. And I've had a major parking problem, especially in front of my house. And my house doesn't have curb and gutter, so they actually pull off and park in the, I guess what I would call my yard, because the gravel's over and the dirt begins, you know?
Right.
The question I have, is there gonna be no parking signs in people's yards all the way up the street?
It would be resident parking only, I would imagine.
I think one of the ordinances, the policy does authorize the town manager to erect signs. I don't think there'll be one in front of every house, but
Right.
maybe one per, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 on the block, between Academy and,
Just kind of sporadic.
I think that's where the majority of the issue is between Academy and Lunenburg. And then Brad's one on the other side.
I think my second question would be, are residents gonna have to get like a parking sticker pass to go on their windshield or something? How are we gonna notify what's a resident's car versus what's not? So that's just my question.
That's a great question, and that will probably grow out of this. Hopefully, for now, at least the initial shock value will probably have some impact, but moving forward, I would imagine that would have to happen.
And would there be a cost associated with that?
Oh, I would certainly not want to charge the residents of Blackstone to park in front of their house. I would not. That might have, we might have a double larger crowd if we do that. But, and it's not, in fairness, it's not, you know, like I said, it's not, this is not a slight at the employees, certainly of Heritage Hall. A lot of times you're visiting from out of town to visit, Meemaw, and you haven't been to Blackstone in a year or so, and you get the spot that's closest. But Heritage Hall for the last year and a half has not had entrance, you know, on 6th Street. You have to go in the main entrance. So, you know, that parking lot during the daytime is pretty much full. Hearing no opposition, we've heard Mr. Page. Anyone else with any input or concerns? This is only the enabling statute. Yes, sir.
I just have one question.
If you could just, I forgot your name, and I'm sorry. I know you spoke here earlier.
Finch.
Yes, Mr. Finch.
Kind of going along with what he said, but a non-resident, say if I was coming to take care of my grandmother, would I also be able to get some type of sticker or something for my vehicle if I'm regularly coming to check in on her?
I would certainly hope so. How does that work, Madam Attorney? I would,
Residents only.
Yeah,
by the
it's-
ordinance.
so maybe each household gets 2 stickers or something like that, or how does that?
The regulation right now, all it says is residents only, and then it kind of leaves the mechanisms of enforcement up to the town
I
manager.
think when it means residence, it means any daily activity of that
Right.
resident itself.
Right.
Not trying to make.
No, you're right. This is not perfect by any means. It's not perfect.
There will be 2 that will be regularly in and out,
Right.
so
Is there parking in the rear just in case something?
for me, yes.
Okay.
For a couple of the others, no.
Okay.
Because it's a flight of stairs
Okay.
to come up.
I would bring up one issue, the church. You know, there's a church there at the corner of Academy,
6 in the Academy.
and it's not technically a resident. Are they still allowed in on-street park based on this?
Right now, it says that it's just the residents.
That's why I was thinking Academy might be the better cutoff.
It may be better, yeah, because there's no houses that face specifically on that street, on that portion of it.
Right.
And I think the church creates something that's probably not, or it's probably arguable. Am I a resident, non-resident with a church? And parking's been a premium for the church.
Yes,
And
it has.
Come to us before about it, so it may make sense to do the Academy. And you may very well be right, because it's a church.
Just for now, go between.
From Academy to Lunenburg?
Yes.
I would think that's probably easier instead of getting into the specter of the church.
I would just point out at Academy, it's gotten better since y'all put that painted curb there where the stop sign is, but people still park on all the other corners, so if you're up at that stop sign, you can't see if there's a car coming, you know, so you can make your left or whatever
Right.
you're doing, so I think if that's gonna be the cutoff, we may need to put not only where the stop sign is, but going the other way, maybe like a painted curb.
Like north on Academy a little way.
Yeah, you know, so far from the corner.
That's true. That's a good point. Hearing no other comments, council, what's your pleasure on the enabling ordinance, the parking ordinance? I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
So move, but with the amending to to Academy.
Well, I
That will
don't,
be
we
with
do
the
that in a second.
regulation.
Right, this is just a general ordinance, blanket ordinance. So Colonel Tom has moved to adopt the blanket ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Jones is second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll now have a public hearing on the actual parking regulation itself. And this is, to, as we stated earlier, to prevent non-resident on-street parking specifically on 6th Street between Lunenburg Avenue and Academy is what we want to amend. What you see that on your packet is between Lunenburg and Main.
Do we need to re-advertise anything?
No,
Okay.
just if it's that amendment. you can do that.
And this is actually less restrictive.
Making it less
Exactly.
restrictive.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
if it's less restrictive, then you're fine.
As I said before, anyone against this? Start off, anyone just really upset about it, against it? How about people for it? I think Mr. Page and Mr. Finch and family. I'll declare the public hearing closed. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Morgan has moved to adopt the amended parking regulation. Ms. Hasbrook has seconded. Any further discussion?
We'll go to Heritage Hall, I hope the town staff would, and notify them.
I heard y'all, absolutely.
And they've been somewhat informed of this, and I think they've, I haven't heard any negative feedback.
I would like to also add that, don't make it immediate because I gotta find the signs and get the signs, so give us 2 weeks or something to get the signs and, or upon erection of the signs, I guess. Is that what it is? Upon
Just say,
erection of the
just say
signs.
December 1.
December 1.
I'll do my best to make sure I have the signs in place.
Very good. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those are our public hearings.
Bye, everybody.
Thank-
Unless you all need me, I'm gonna be on my way.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Doug.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Have a great time.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. At this time, we have one scheduled visitor tonight, and that's the Blackstone Chamber of Commerce with Beverly Ames. And this council,
Do you wanna do the minutes? Do we wanna go in order of the agenda?
well, we should. I mean, why not, if you insist?
Move to approve of the meeting minutes for the continued meeting and the regular council meeting as presented.
Mr. Nash has moved, and Mr. Miller has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Picking up where I left off, this council at a special meeting last Wednesday did approve the date for the Christmas parade. It is Friday, December 10th at 6 o'clock. And the same route, starting from Sea Park, coming down Main Street and turning on to Tavern. The only question left, this council in recent years has donated 700, I believe, or 750 for bands to be paid or reimbursed, and I believe also some trophies for the ones that win awards. And there was some discussion, I think, council wanted to have about how many bands would be are confirmed and that sort of thing. So, Ms. Ames, do you have any updated information for us? I know it's still a couple weeks away.
We still have 2 confirmed bands, 3 others, so I'm waiting to hear back. Actually, 4 others I'm waiting to hear back from.
Okay.
I did hear from Dinwiddie today, they have a new band director, and so he hasn't learned the ropes yet, who to talk to.
Okay.
So, I don't see a big problem with them because the previous band director is now the vice principal.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's pretend, give you 2 scenarios. 3 bands come, how much money do you need? 5 bands come, how much money do you need?
37.
After the last several years, it's kind of hard to make that judgment, because bad weather, we've not had the same situation for
Right.
the last 4 years for the parade. We paid each band $100 for their expenses,
Okay.
and then it depends on what the trophies are gonna cost.
Gotcha.
So, I would say if we have 3 bands, it's somewhere around 500. But it's
Okay.
your generosity that helps do this.
Okay. Well, I would recommend to council, if you wish, it's council's pleasure, it's council's call, but if you want to stick with the 750, realizing that anything that's not spent, if it can be returned to the town,
We've done that to you before.
okay, just want to be transparent. Does any member of council have a motion or alternate motion?
I make a motion.
Ms. Jones, your motion is to award up to 750?
750.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Hasbrook is second. Any further discussion?
That's
All-
with the stipulation.
Yeah, and that includes stipulation, and I'll be honest with you, I was not aware of that, Ms. Ames, so we thank the chamber for that. I just was not aware. Because like I said, it hadn't been the chamber's fault. We've had snow, we've had COVID, we've had rain. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. There are 2 opportunities for public comment. This is the first. Is anyone else tonight who would like to address council at this point or wait till the second portion near the end of the meeting? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on with our agenda. We have our fire chief. Chief Tomer's here, and good to see him in person.
Appreciate it. Sorry for the lack of report, but I
All right.
was enjoying the beach instead.
Devil.
The good news, Engine 3 has finally reached the production line. I'll email everybody some pictures. It's pretty much just a cab with some welding on it. They haven't got really hard to tell any aspect of a fire truck, but it's finally starting to come together. Our Christmas banquet, once again, is the 11th of next month at Fort Pickett Officers Club. I did send out digital invites to everyone except for Lonnie and Eric. And if you have not responded, you will be getting a written invite as well coming in the mail. Please RSVP if you're coming or not coming. That's our way of tracking to figure out how much food we need to prepare for. Before my departure last Friday, we did interview for the position of the Emergency Services Coordinator. This interview is conducted by leadership of all agencies. We had crew police chiefs there, rescue squad, both Blackstone, Burkeville, and crew fire departments, and the county administrator. From my understanding, this Thursday, they are going to publicly announce who was awarded the position or accepted the position. I have great ambition for this position, and I feel it will do a great service to our community, both on the emergency services, bringing us together, but also ensuring that we're prepared for the next ice storm. And have a fully active and operational emergency operations plan, and also a communication center. So be looking forward to that on Thursday for that announcement.
Very good.
The 6th of December is once again our annual remembrance of firefighter Edgar Johnson. Firefighter Johnson was, or fortunately is, the only member that died in the line of duty for the Blackstone Volunteer Fire Department. This happened in 1962 at VUMAC when he was struck in the head by a branch that fell out of a tree and killed him. We've had a busy month so far with our equipment. Thankfully, the town was very quick in repairing one of our rescue trucks that was out of service for a couple days due to ignition problems. Our air packs have undergone their annual flow testing, and they've also been required to have a NFPA upgrade already. The packs are 2 years old, and compliments of the federal government. They changed some modifications on the air packs, and we had to comply with that. And if you drove by the station, our Engine 5 is out of service. The service stage company was kind enough to replace our gauges, but all the gauges read different pressures instead of 0. Several words were held with them of how they could do that and leave it like that. So it's now back in their hands, and also going to get tested, pump tested while it's up there. House numbering campaign, I believe, is officially over. Friday. Have we had much? We really haven't heard any.
We've had 8 people.
So,
Not bad.
not bad, but I guarantee you there's more than 8 places without numbers on their buildings.
What's the ordinance? It's got to be 5 inches in height. Is there a certain
I
size?
want to say it was 3 inch.
3 inches in height?
2 or 3 inches, but it has to be visible from the road.
That's the biggest key, you gotta see it from the road.
My question is, a couple of years ago, Charlie Atkinson was riding around when he was reading meters, and he gave me like a couple pages of houses that don't. Can we automatically do theirs, or do we have to have permission?
You gotta have
from-
permission to go on private property.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we could give them the numbers, and say they need to be posted, but I don't think you wanna enter the property without.
Right.
somebody coming to it. I think it'd be excellent for a volunteer group, not necessarily the fire department, but if there was a volunteer group that wanted to take on,
If-
they'd need to put up for folks if they needed the help.
I also want to, if I'm not mistaken, this is a misdemeanor offense. I believe it is in the code as something that can receive a charge
The
for.
house number and ordinance, it was adopted in like 92 when the county did 911. And they've discovered at that time that the numbering sequence was all out of whack, and there's still some places in Blackstone that are a little odd.
Dinwiddie Avenue's got a big mess with those new houses that were built over there, completely out of sequence over there. But we renumbered probably in 1995.
That's right, you were here.
Yeah, we renumbered a bunch, especially Academy Avenue, 6th Street, 4th Street, that area got really redone several years ago.
I mean, I certainly do not want the police going up and down the road looking for house numbers,
No,
but I do feel a strong push needs to be really put out there for it.
It says the owner of any home, business, apartment, factory, or other building shall properly display a house number. These numbers must be at least 3 inches in height and must be displayed so as to be clearly visible from the street and from the building. The house number shall be assigned by the town manager's office.
okay, there you have it.
But that also means it can be on a mailbox.
Yes, I did have some people call about that, but that can be seen from the street.
Right. Important stuff. Like I said, if your house is fully engulfed, they'll find you. But if someone's having a heart attack and you're by yourself, you know, I've heard them right around. You know, not
Oh, yeah.
recently, thank goodness. All right. Anything else, Chief?
And that's all I got.
We have a question from citizen Tom Taylor. Yes, sir.
Happy birthday, Bill.
She got 3 digits or 2 digits.
He knows.
All right. Happy birthday. Is it your birthday?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I thought so.
He knows.
Thanks so much, Chief.
All right, thank
Any
you.
questions of the Chief? While he's any passing questions? All right. We have a question from the audience, Miss Ames.
Dion, the remembrance service, what time is
6 o'clock.
6
usually.
o'clock.
at night?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Usually we get, the downfall is usually a train comes by about that same time.
Yes, you do.
But we held the service there. It lasts maybe 10 minutes, and we then activate the fire sirens at the conclusion of the service.
It's very moving. He was 37 years old, a husband and father of 2 children, 11 and 6 when it happened. He had just driven, 4 days earlier, he had driven the new fire truck down from Pennsylvania at the time of his death. It's a very moving time if you've been there. All right, moving right along, folks. We've got the payment of bills. That's probably the most important thing we'll do all night, to be honest with you. You have your first batch of checks not yet approved. They totaled $398,647.43. These are checks not yet approved, and they're listed, and they're open for public inspection. Members of council, what's your pleasure? Ms. Hasbrook has moved, and Mr. Nash has seconded. Any questions?
We have Lewis Welding and Construction, $300 fire truck door repair. Was that for insurance or?
I don't know, no, it's less than our deductible. We would not have turned it in if it was $300. It would not have been something we would submit it. I don't think that, I don't know the history on the damage.
It was a welded door, a fabricated welded door, where the welding came loose on Rescue 10, where our cribbing is held. So it's just to re-weld it.
And then there was several unclaimed properties, lost check, I believe it says. It's several in there. What are those?
Talking about those.
Haley Auto Mall, unclaimed property.
And you already paid bills, or is this the, to be paid?
To be paid, or no, already paid, not yet approved.
I think these are when checks are lost, and Jennifer goes in to clean up the system, and then she sends them letters, and they may not ever receive the check or something, so
Gotcha.
we send the checks back out for, when we have correct addresses.
Are you talking about the unclaimed property?
Yes. That's it.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote because it exceeds $10,000, and we'll start with Councilman Morgan.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. And then your next batch of bills, and these are accounts payable, bills to be paid. They total, scrolling down, they total $169,135.57. These are broken down by departments. Need a motion to approve.
So move.
Ms. Jones has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Morgan is seconded. Discussion? These also are broken down by department, and they are, taxpayer bills are open for inspection by the taxpayers. Any questions or concerns? The bills are rather on the low side this month. Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Morgan.
Aye.
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 7-0, the choir's a little off, we're gonna get the rhythm right in just a minute. We're gonna get it going here in just a minute. All right, and then we have some appropriations that are in your packet tonight, and Mr. Town Manager, just for the audience benefits, these are items that were not budgeted,
Correct?
that came up during the course of, we're doing this monthly now, aren't we? Or every quarter?
We're trying to do it every month.
Every month, that there are items that were not budgeted that came up in the life of the town, just like in the life of our household, things come up you didn't plan on. But we're a local government, so we have to make these things public, and there's 4 items. And I'll,
I'll briefly go over appropriation number 1 is a request to appropriate $15,356 from CARES funding that's currently held by Nottaway County. That's the first series of contributions from the federal government to offset pandemic expenses. And this is to put touchless water fountains throughout town. Buildings at $15,356. That is a CARES funded activity. And we did not have it in the budget. Second appropriation is for the fire department. And if I'm not mistaken, the fire department uses the accountant here in town to do some documents for them during the course of the years. And they're asking, when the appropriation is to move certain dollars in fire prevention and move it to operating supplies because there was not enough money to cover that $800 expense. Administration, the preparations for a safety grant. We received a $4,000 grant from our insurance carrier, and we put a key fob on the treasurer's office on the back door. We want to make sure that that back door doesn't accidentally get left unlocked or anything like that. So it's the same, your key fobs. The town council members should work on there, and certain staff has one. The actual installation was $576 in excess of the $4,000 grant, and we're proposing to use money from the Skilled Games. If you remember, we were receiving a tax on those, and we would take that $576 out of that cash that's sitting in our money market account. And the police department's received a notification, and you can see that there's some documentation attached, that they received a $2,876 burn grant for the police department, and I believe that's for equipment. And if you want to vote it individually or.
I think we can take them all at once, and just so the audience understands, that $23,000 roughly, a lot of you thinking, what are you spending money for? The 3 of the 4 items are money received from grants. So, you know,
Philip, you said Skilled Games.
Mhm.
We shouldn't be getting any more of those, correct?
Not receiving any more. However, I do have, and received some complaints about Exxon down on South Main Street having the games turned back on. The police department did go down there, and indeed the games were on. The proprietor of the business came to me and said that he believed they were to be legal, and presented a letter from either his attorney or the association's attorney. We turned that over to Leanne Watrous, and she confirmed that on November 30th, she and I will meet at 10 a.m., hopefully somebody from the PD also, to see if these games, according to the Commonwealth's attorney, are legal.
So are they currently on still?
We asked the proprietor to turn them off. They were on. Tony Maton instructed them last week to unplug them. The owner came back to me, and I instructed him again, you need to turn these off until we get clarification. I have not been down there today, so I don't know if they're on or not.
oh, what day last week? Because I'm embarrassed to admit, but it just, now that you mention it, last Wednesday morning, deliver newspapers, it was on last Wednesday morning.
They're probably still on. I think he was reluctant to do so, as his opinion was that they are legal, and here's a legal opinion saying.
Why does he believe they're legal?
Because I have
think it's
seen
a
them in
different kind of
Petersburg
game.
opening up.
It's a different type of game,
Yeah.
not such as these skill games or these games of chance.
Games of
This
chance.
is something different altogether. I'll be happy to share you
Yeah.
the letter that we sent.
They got them in Petersburg too,
Yeah.
in Colonial Heights.
It may very well be legal. Leanne, who do the prosecuting, I really need to get her opinion on it.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on.
It's still a big fight going on, and
Yeah.
but it's good that you're working with the Commonwealth's attorney.
So we'll be sure that we get the tax from him that is.
If it's eligible, we'll get that.
All right. We've had do we approve we have not, we need a roll call vote to approve. We got a motion and a second, correct? Need a motion and a second to approve the appropriations.
So moved.
Ms. Hasbrook has moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded. We'll have a roll call vote because it exceeds $10,000, starting with Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Wonderful, wonderful.
Being live is throwing you off your game.
It is. I just, knowing that half of Blackstone's watching.
He's up here watching it on TV.
No, I'm getting fantasy football updates. Next, we have committee reports. Accountant Finance. That is Mr. Nash. Mr. Nash, what reports do we have? Recommendations.
Yes, we had.
This could be one of these could be rather big, folks.
The outstanding liens, you'll have it in there. It just shows that we had requested an audit of the current liens and money owed to the town of Blackstone. And that's still a working document, so we're coming back, getting some more information. We had bills that were paid to us, 10 years ago, that just were, I guess you'd say, marked wrong in the account.
Entered on the wrong code. or
We had
something
already
like that,
received
but
the money, but it showed that we hadn't received it.
It's a small percentage of that, and we're talking
Correct.
about $900,000 total. But please remember, the vast majority of that is on these houses that we do with these grant programs, where the payments
That were,
are the responsibility of the property owner. I was pleased to see that the curb and gutter was far less than expected.
that's what we were worried about.
We were about $70,000 on the curb and gutter.
We do have, we're requesting a motion to approve spending of $116,298.45 for the water meter software update using ARPA funds.
And that comes with maintenance for several years.
That's just for the software. That's not the meters themselves. That's for us to
Correct.
ride around remotely and read the meters instead of getting out and actually tapping each meter.
And ARPA funds does permit the use of it for water utility improvements.
And ARPA is American Recovery Program. So that Act. Do you want to take them one by one, Mr. Nash?
Yeah,
All right. We need a motion to approve spending. Where that money comes from, ARPA, the funds. We still need a motion to approve it. Entertain a motion.
so moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. $116,298 for the water meter software update. We'll have a roll call vote starting with Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
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 That motion carries
That's
7-0.
over a 5-year period that we'll expend that. It's
5
not
years,
gonna all
yeah,
be
that's
right now. And then we have the VEMA fuel adjustment, which is big news for everybody. If Philip wants to broach this topic.
I will give you my best effort to explain. If you look at your, folks in the audience, if you look at your light bill every month, there's several line items. They have garbage and kilowatt hours and water and sewer and several. There's one that has the abbreviation FA, which is fuel adjustment. And that's what Dominion Power charges to the town of Blackstone for the cost of fuel, whether it be coal, whether it be natural gas, or whatever the source is, okay? They're entitled to, every 6 months or halfway through the course of the fiscal year, make a determination whether they're charging enough. And I can tell you, due to the cost of natural gas and all these other resources that they generate power, it's a tremendous increase. Now, it's a very small portion of your bill, but as a percentage, it's going up quite a bit. For example, based on last month's VEMA bill, the town used 2,882,887 kilowatt hours, okay? That's not the town, that's what we were billed for by Dominion, okay? Based on the old rate, the old fuel adjustment rate. Using that kilowatt hour, those numbers, with the new rate, we would have owed $41,484 rather than $12,695. So you can see this is hundreds of percent.
Just for reference, on a small homeowner, and my light bill's pretty low. We always use my bill as an example.
Right.
My bill's typically $7 for fuel adjustment. This month it's gonna go to 21.
What?
Correct. Oh, it's the same thing. I mean,
It's all basically-
simple. And remember, this is a pass through, everybody, so don't think the town is pocketing this.
We're not keeping it down.
Is that a cap on what they can do? You talking about?
Green energy is what this is.
What happened 20 years ago when Dominion when they deregulated electricity, a lot of people, including myself, said, oh goody, this is going to be great, there'll be more competition and our light bills will go down. No, and the late town manager, your predecessor, said it's going to allow Dominion and all these big companies to itemize everything they do and pass it on to the customer. And now, like I said, no matter what political persuasion you may be, if you followed events in Richmond, the big push is green energy. And that is a cost to get going here. I see a hand raised in the back.
Yes, sir, I'm Wesley Goins. I work for Dominion, and the reason that part of a majority of the reason that cost went up was the Reggie bill due to greenhouse gases
Right.
limits. And Dominion has to pay extra costs to operate coal-powered
Yes, sir.
power plants, as well as the gas-fired power plants, anything, you know, in that way.
It has been explained to me there was a dramatic increase in the cost of natural gas recently as well.
Yeah, the
That's
price of
part of it.
natural gas is staying up lately as well.
Supply or for whatever reason it's gone up dramatically.
So the question before council tonight is,
Well, I think the council has adopted a policy whereby they pass on the fuel adjustment charge. The only matter before you is using ARPA money for the first month, because it wouldn't go into effect.
We've already incurred the cost for October,
Right.
so the committee is recommending that we eat that with ARPA money.
okay,
And that way we're not,
$28,828.87.
How much?
$28,828.87.
but what that means is come probably your December bill that you get in January, Blackstone residents will
You'll see it?
see the jump, and if it went from 7, it would,
my personal home, $7 to $21 is what it will be.
that's, and this is a time when we're paying more for gas, and going into winter, so anyone listening and watching, cut corners any way you can.
And like Philip said, this is for at least 6 months, because they only adjust it every 6 months, so you
Not
know
till
for
April
6
when you
months.
see an adjustment to it.
Yeah, if it is adjusted at all.
And there was a long time ago, folks, not that long ago, but like around the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, the town ate the fuel adjustment. And then one year, John Hill, who sat right here, did some calculations, and one year, unbeknownst to the officials, they realized they had paid $272,000 in fuel adjustment charges that were not budgeted. They just weren't, it's just something that no one was following. And so we don't make a dime off of it, but it's just something we have to pass on to the customers. And the town, I will give the town council a lot of credit. You know, we've had some rate increases from Dominion that were not fully passed on to the consumers. They have been absorbed by, I think in some cases, electrical funds, the electrical surplus. So anyway, with all that said, is there a vote needed
A good
tonight?
example was, we had a 24% increase from Dominion this year, and the council only passed on 8.5%. Much of it was offset with ARPA funds, because we're allowed to do some utility relief programs. We'll talk a little bit more about it tonight. And then we added, not fuel adjustment, but if you remember, we added the SERPA, which is where we buy power from the federal government. And there's one other rider that was added to it, and but the fuel adjustment has always been passed through.
So just so everybody knows, the $3.5 million that the town received, we're using it to benefit the citizens. It's not just going to pay off whatever.
But is there a motion needed tonight, or just,
They used the $28,000 out of ARPA.
I move to approve to nullify, use the ARPA money for the October's
First month, yeah.
first month of fuel adjustment increase.
is there a second?
The employee, or the typical ratepayer would only see 11 months, so it basically gives them 1 month relief.
Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
Second.
Mr. Miller, second. Any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote starting with Councilman Morgan.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
That motion carries 7-0.
We had one other thing on there. Ms. Hardy had given us an update that day, I believe, we had gotten notice that we were awarded the full amount for the storm damages in the town. Out of all the ice storm, it's only gonna cost us $40,662.
And a total $813,000 of expense.
It only cost us 5%. We were thinking it was gonna cost us
12.5%
Yeah.
is what we were told initially, but they've already provided documentation showing the town is only gonna be responsible for 5% of that.
That's outstanding. $813,000 is what the cost was. The people of Blackstone are gonna pay $40,662. 5%, outstanding. What else, Mr. Nash? You had no action on the water line extension because the supervisors will not waive the connection.
That's it.
All right. So anyone out on Cox Road that wants town water, we want to provide it to you, but the county will not require mandatory hookups, and we can't afford to run a water line that no one's going to use, or only half the people are going to use. So that's just factual. That's not. We love our county partners. Moving right along, we have insurance committee. That's Mr. Morgan, isn't it? All right. What kind of insurance have we got here?
After
getting the presentation from Finance Director Hardy. It's the committee's recommendation to renew the accident policy at Hartford, which was at $8,768, which is no increase from last year. And the property casualty policy, $9,993, which is a $482 increase from last year.
Not bad.
And the airport liability policy renewal is $5,475, which is a $425 increase from last year. So it was recommended renewing the airport and fire department insurances as presented.
All right, is that a motion?
So we,
Mr. Morgan has moved to adopt those policies.
Maybe separate or not, separate.
No, I think.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones is seconded. Any further discussion?
I got a question on the airport policy. What is malpractice?
I don't know if I know the answer to that. I'd have to find out for you. I would assume it's malfeasance of some sort when you tell somebody or poor instructions or that sort of thing, but I don't know right offhand.
Is there a reason for the increase at the airport? Is it due to increased traffic or
I
what?
wonder about that. That's almost a 10% increase.
No, I would say it's not probably. I don't know if our traffic has been heavier because 90% of the traffic is military and or grunt. So I can't say that there's been a dramatic increase.
No issues out there? We haven't had a claim out there?
No, not that I can think of, and Jennifer can correct me on it, but, no. We did add a new maintenance building, if you remember, we had a really bad shed out there, and now we have a brick building, if you remember, we used airport funds to do that, so I suspect that's probably the increase right there. Higher quality, building.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second? Motion made and second. I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That motion also carries 7-0. And our final committee report is the employment and police, some of which happened tonight. That's Mr. Miller's committee now. Mr. Miller?
Okay. Tonight we had a closed session and came up with the manager's contract, and we're gonna forward that to the lawyer for approval. The drug policy on marijuana, we discussed it. We went over it again tonight, and I think it's gonna be basically about the same.
It's gonna stay the same, except if you have a prescription or
Medical
an
drug.
order for medical marijuana, that would exempt you from marijuana testing, but otherwise, the employees of the town that are required, the safety sensitive, not Jennifer, but I operate equipment or I drive a vehicle, so I am a safety sensitive employee. Marijuana still is, one of the screens.
Police,
okay.
garbage.
Garbage, police.
Public work. How about public works if you're a ditch digger or
And,
If you operate equipment.
operate equipment?
and Versa did say that anyone with a CDL is not allowed to have the medical marijuana card.
medical
So if you have a CDL, medical marijuana card, you cannot have it.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, the animal control officer, we didn't discuss that.
Didn't, but I did talk to Tessie briefly after our committee meeting, and I'm gonna get her to draft up a memorandum of understanding between we and the county about accessing the shelter. So Tessie should have that to you next, our next committee meeting.
Very good. And just so y'all just so you know, we're discussing the possibility of having an animal control officer in town like we used to have with Frank Radcliffe, the late Frank Radcliffe, who was amazing. But it's no good having a town officer if they go and catch a dog or a cat, but they can't get the keys to the pound, which, oh, by the way, in 2 years will be a 15-mile drive to Burkeville. So lots to work out there. And you may have heard the word contract. We are discussing the possibility of having a contract with the town manager that'll be mutually beneficial to the manager and the town. And when that document, if and when it's adopted, will be fully public. So I want everybody to be, when you say contract, I saw some folks kind of perk up a little bit. We don't have, a council and mayor don't have a contract. Any action items? Any action items?
No.
All right, moving right along. You have before you a consent agenda, which I don't believe has anything on there. Unfinished business. We have some bids to award for the roof at the medical center and the library.
Ladies and gentlemen, we finally, after bidding on multiple occasions, have an award that we would like to recommend to replace the roof at the library from a slate roof to a standing seam metal roof that would match the front portico and also the back of the building. The bid came in quite favorably, and the low bid is from Craftsman Roofing Services in Lynchburg, in the amount of $54,000. We were expecting $85,000.
Is there a reason it's much lower than what it was prior?
It's the same exact bid. We took the same documents and sent them out. So we're well pleased, and it also includes repair at the medical center.
Is that reimbursed? Aren't repairs?
Well, we keep, as you know, we get a monthly bill, and we have two sources of funds. They pay a rent payment much reduced from what it was, and we keep that segregated. And/or in May every year, we send them an invoice.
We can recoup some of this.
I would
back.
think you can recoup that, yep.
Need a motion to approve?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. We'll give Mr. Morgan the second. Another roll call vote, folks, starting with Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0.
When will, just so the library, I know they've been asking, when does it look to begin?
I'm probably gonna say it'll, with the availability of materials like it is, probably after the first of the year, I would think.
All right, next up, we've got some HVAC here at Town Hall.
We currently have two older HVAC units here in Town Hall that serve town manager's side and the council chambers, and CARES money will replace those. And we sought bids for those two units, and the lowest bidder is Sandy's Service Center. Doesn't sound like an HVAC person, but I do know the gentleman that does it, and he does have a contractor's license, and he is insured. And his bid was the lowest of the three that we received, and it's $9,950 for the 3-ton unit replacement.
Is that Tony Sandy from Cambridge?
I know him because he digs graves for folks. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Tony, okay, got it.
Okay, same guy. There you go.
All right. We need a motion to approve the low bid from Sandy Service Center.
So moved.
Colonel Tom has moved. I'll give the second to Mr. Morgan. Any discussion? It's under 10 grand. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We have some news to share that many of you already know about.
And I think our clerk is correcting me on something.
Okay.
And we'll do the change order. Okay. Please see attached news release from Governor Northam's office awarding the town a $600,000 IRF grant for the town. Manager Van Orweg has not received a contract or additional information at this time, and I would like to update that we had a conference call today, and we should be receiving, I think we do have some documentation they've asked us to provide, and once Chastity and Todd Fortune with the Commonwealth Regional Council gets that information to us, then a contract will be forthcoming. If you remember, this is for water, sewer, electric lines, and storm sewer and curb and gutter at the site. Any monies that are available are also eligible to be used to put in a generator to supply the entire building in the event of a storm outage. It would be nice to have hotel rooms available locally. We really scrambled with our electric crews trying to find places for them to stay. We finally, Raj Patel was helpful enough. He was able to find us some places over near Petersburg and Colonial Heights where those guys could stay. And but we're going to be working in an eligible activity is an emergency generator. It's going to take a big one, and I don't know if we'll have enough money left over, but we can put certainly a portion of it towards it.
And they still plan, last time I spoke to Mr. Patel, he said they want to rent rooms in May.
May of 2022.
Wow.
Yep.
Hard to believe. Moving right along, unfinished business number 4, the Armory Architectural Services.
I received at about 5 o'clock this evening a revised proposal. And I'll read this very carefully. It says Manager Van Orbeck is working with the architectural firm recommended by the review committee. The review committee was Eric Nash, Mr. Miller, myself, and Kathy Wooten. And I think the highest ranked architectural firm is Commonwealth Architects, and they're from Richmond. You guys may know them. They did several studies for the Armory Group at one time, and very familiar with the facility. Plus, they also have a wing of it that is a hospitality wing. At the time I wrote the presentation for the council packet, I had not received back a proposal, but I did receive it this afternoon. I've given Mr. Miller and Eric a hard copy, and I'll send Kathy an electronic copy. It did bring the price down, and it changed some of the scope of services. They had exempted certain things like fire suppression systems, sprinklers and that sort of thing. And I felt like that was a part of the project, and that was within the envelope of the building. So they modified some things. They brought the prices down significantly, especially for the consulting on the hospitality program. So hopefully, if we have a continued or a special call meeting in the next week or so, then maybe the group can make a recommendation at that time. Okay. But we just received it late this afternoon.
Very good. And just for the audience benefit, we will probably have and we'll have to do some scheduling, but we're probably going to need to have a special council meeting perhaps later this week and or next week, because we have 4 applicants for the Ward B council position and some other housekeeping. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And we'll make all that public. Moving right along to ongoing projects.
Yes, dilapidated buildings. We have two properties that were declared blighted by town council, one on Oak Street and one on Fifth Street. Appraisals for both have been completed. Both properties have been tested for the presence of asbestos, and an estimate for the abatement of said asbestos has been also provided to the Attorney Bacon, and she has all the documentation, including demolition estimates, to sit down with the property owner and see if this can be worked out in a negotiation, and if it can't, then I guess we would move forward with a condemnation if the council so chose to do that.
Do you recall what I'm just curious, it's public information, do you recall what the appraisals were?
I do not. I have not read the appraisals, I'll be honest with you. I just got them from Mr. Duncanson. Dee Duncanson conducted the appraisals on behalf of Tessie. She contracted directly with him, so I have not read them, I must say. I can get them, and they are public information. They're in my office and available, and I can report to council and send copies to everybody.
Just curious. But just for the audience benefit, this blight ordinance is new for the town, and it's something that, we're gonna get some lashings over because we don't like to condemn private property, but blight has become an issue. But just to give you some context, the home on Fifth Street, the old Skidmore home, which has been vacant for years and years and years, that was first on our radar screen and identified publicly November of last year. So no one can accuse the town of acting overzealously. We try to give the property owner every benefit, and he stood right here back in May and asked for 30 days, and I said, we'll give you 60. And nothing's been done. I mean, and not trying to cast blame, it's just a lot of people are in bad spots. But if you live next to it, and are looking to sell your property, that has a detrimental value on your home and your property. So that's why government gets involved and gets bigger. I'm sorry to belabor that, Mr.
I will make those appraisals available to everybody, along with a copy of the estimates for the asbestos and the demolition costs that were provided. Tessie has everything she needs to proceed. I've had several other property owners call about adjacent properties, but I've kind of put everybody off until we get these two done and see how this process looks and if we want to continue with this process. So I'd like to wrap these up. I have one on Nottoway Avenue, and then there's several others around town where people have inquired about what we got to do to get these houses fixed
And
up.
blight does not mean, oh, it looks tacky. Oh, they need to paint the house. Blight is structural components visible from the exterior. Just want to stress that. Moving right along to meals and lodging tax. Everybody's in good standing.
As far as I know.
And street improvements, nothing to report yet, but we've got some serious work coming up at the beginning of the year.
You've got a big boy that's going to be starting up after the first of the year on Main Street between 6th and 10th. That'll be a significant project. You guys awarded the bids, and we still need to get the contract signed and all that sort of thing. We're not there yet on that project. But and the contractor had specifically asked if he could wait till after the first of the year, and I specifically asked him to wait till after the first of the year so we don't have an open trench through the wintertime. We want to get the work done and paved. And for those of you who may or may not know, it's very difficult to get asphalt this time of the year, especially with the weather. And if it's cold, you can't do it. And the plants typically open back up in the middle of March. So hopefully we can time this to get it paved very quickly.
All right, moving right along to Wigglesworth Stadium, our grant project over that area.
Wigglesworth Stadium, as you know, S. Walker Construction has been working on Jackson Street, for those of you in the neighborhood, installing storm drains and drop inlets. They poured the concrete for those. That's on Jackson Street. Additionally, the town will be executing contracts tomorrow at 10 a.m. We need to change the date on a couple of the notice of awards and things to satisfy VDOT, but that was a TAP 21 grant of $239,000, and the town does have a portion of monies in there, and that will take that sidewalk and curb and gutter, the entire perimeter of the baseball complex, along with antique lighting. Okay. Amazing. And so we'll get everything signed up, and we'll be ready to roll after tomorrow.
East End Grant Project, the biggest grant project in the history of the town.
All right.
Contracts have been executed for 2 homes, and contractors will begin working on this month. One is on Harris Street, one is on Fitzgerald Street, 2 others waiting execution, one of those being on Harris Street, and there was one on Tavern Street, if I'm not mistaken, and we're waiting for those to be signed. Additionally, sewer and water installation is ongoing on Dillard and Fitzgerald Streets, and if you've been over there, you can see it's a fairly slow process.
Slow
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
The road, the area is closed probably 4 days a week.
That's all right, no,
She's
don't
slow.
worry about that.
She's slow.
I gotta
And,
worry about it. Everybody get out of there.
Don't worry about that.
When might we be looking at phase, if just in your crystal ball, when might the phase 2 be complete?
of the water and sewer, we have a completion date, I think is in late winter.
Okay,
So do I think they'll make it? I hope so if the weather permits, but we've had some really good dry
yeah.
weather that they may not have taken a full advantage of, because I'm not sure they know what January and February look like. So we have an expectation they'll meet their contract.
It'd be May or June, go ahead.
It could be.
Weatherization,
Weatherization, we're negotiating right now and working on several applications. One of them is on Fall Street, and one of them is on Carver Street, and one of them is on Patterson Street. So we're working on 3 different houses right now. We don't have the full amount of funding. I think we have enough funding for the Carver Street property. And I think Mr. Miller may bring this up at some point this evening. We have $50,000 a year, and I don't think either one of those, certainly not the Fall Street project, which would be a new house, the $50,000 will cover it. So I think Mr. Miller has some solutions or proposed solutions that he'd like to talk on, but those are the 3 properties that we have that are kind of front burner right now on weatherization.
did you say building a new house, which has been done before, building,
We built a new house on Stoke Street, if you remember.
I remember that.
And then there would be the one on Fall Street is so far gone that I think it would be a new house as well. Patterson Street, I think, can be renovated. I don't think it's in that sort of condition. I think it certainly needs some aesthetics, roofing, insulation, all those kinds of things. And then the property on Carver Street, to my knowledge, is more of a roofing issue. And I think we have some money set aside for that one. Okay.
And just for, again, for the audience benefit, you may be wondering what weatherization is. That is the town of Blackstone taking its electrical profits, some that is saved away, and trying to help low-income folks that have problems with insulation and are having high energy bills, and try to lighten the burden on them. And it's just something we try to do to, while the town does make a lot of money off the electrical system, maybe as much as $1 million a year, we disagree with the number, but we try to give it back and help those who need help the most. But it's tough. Like you said, when we budgeted $50,000, and it won't even, it won't. That used to do 2 or 3 homes.
It used to
won't
do,
anymore.
yeah. We just bid one out on Harris Street, an example. That's a 3-bedroom, and it did have demolition included. That came back at almost $90,000. So $50,000 doesn't go very far anymore in weatherization.
Mr. Miller?
Okay, my proposal is, we're not going up on your light bills, you don't have to get crazy, we're not gonna do that. My proposal is, we take the $12.50, we add 12, bring back the $12.50 that we took away.
$12.50 reconnect.
Yeah, the $12.50 reconnect fee, and put it all in weatherization. I mean, these people around here, like he says, $50,000 doesn't do nothing, especially when you got 8 or 9 or 10 families in the community that need work.
What's the reconnect fee now?
$12.50.
You're saying
Take
take that,
it back to 25.
go back to, so double the reconnect fee, but make sure all proceeds,
All will go back.
all 25 goes into weatherization.
Weatherization.
I don't think we have to have a hearing on that. Would you want to have a hearing on that?
Logically, you should.
Yeah.
If you're gonna raise the
Increasing
rate,
rates.
Yeah,
you should.
I think it's good policy to do so. You want to advertise that for December?
I like to.
Get us all in the Christmas spirit?
So this would only affect people that pay their bills late.
It's just only ones that if
If
you
you cut off.
if you cut off,
Okay,
then you pay $12.50, huh?
hold up.
This will affect anyone who pays their bill after the 15th, not only if you're cut off. You don't have to be disconnected to have to pay.
Because we bill you because the process of going through the administrative notification.
The cutoff
process.
list, if you make the cutoff list.
By 8 o'clock on the 16th,
Yeah.
you pay the $25.
And right now, just to give y'all context, about on any given month, between 320 and 380 customers are on what used to be called the pink slip list. They're late. Now, they don't all make the cutoff list.
Right, it's usually between, depending on 50 to 100 people on the cutoff list.
Wow, per month.
But actually physically cut off is less than that.
But if they're on that list, they're getting their rate double. That 12.
I can promise you, there'll be plenty here to speak about it.
But okay. Just one other side note, because I see some folks here that it's good to see some folks at these meetings. It used to be up until November of 2013, when you got your light bill in Blackstone, you had 2 weeks to pay it. And I argued, and the council at the time finally, and we were tight on money. It was hard to do, but we extended it out to a month. You have 30 days or 28 days, depending on how the month is, to pay your light bill. And a lot of providers don't give you a month. You get 2 weeks. So I think we made a lot of progress. What's that?
45 days, including the late fee.
before
Right.
you're cut off.
Right, you've got it, right, 45 days to really get cut off, but you don't want to make that cutoff list, or you're gonna be paying $12.50 and possibly $25 to reconnect.
You are paying $12.50 now,
Right.
and it would go to $25
All right,
based on the
well,
proposal.
I would entertain a motion to, for council to have a hearing on that proposal.
So moved.
Mr. Miller has moved, is there a second? Second. Mr. Jones, a second. Any further discussion on the Miller plan? All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
You can win that one.
Well, I give them credit. Listen, if you,